Once again, take a look at the choices, see what's different, see what's changing, and use that to predict the question, to understand what they might be testing you on. If we look here, it's pretty clear. Again, we've got a semicolon, some commas, right? So yeah, they're changing the wording, but they're also changing the punctuation. And remember, we've seen this on this test a lot. Punctuation means sentence structure is going to be important. So we've got to think about that as we read. So I'm really looking for, where do sentences begin and end? It's a hard thing to get good at, but once you do, you're going to see it all over the place. Advocates of fare-free policies claim that the costs of these policies are largely offset by various savings. I could put a period right there if I wanted to, so that means that this is itself a sentence, right there up to savings. So now I got to see, how does this other piece relate to that? Is it something extra I can tack on? Or is it its own sentence and we've got a bit of a problem? So let's take a look. However, a recent study comparing projected results of fare-free policies in different cities found this outlook to be way too sunny. Notice how I understood what I was saying without having to read anything that came before it. Right? That second part could also be its own sentence. And however, maybe that's like a little bit of an addition, right? And that's what those commas maybe tell me. But the rest of this is kind of its own sentence. So we've got a problem here. We've got a run-on sentence, right? We're not allowed to join this yellow and this pink with only commas. We need something more. Now, however, is a tricky word, because a lot of times we do think of it as a transition word, and it lets us transition between a sentence and another. And so why can't we do that here? We do that with words like and but as well. However, though, is different. It's a complex word, so it needs a complex punctuation mark. If we had a semicolon right here, we'd be okay. A semicolon basically, remember, functions as a period. In order to use a semicolon, we need a complete sentence followed by a complete sentence, and we'd be good to go. And so in this case, yeah, the yellow and the pink could be joined together with a semicolon, and we'd be good to go. But a comma is not sufficient. So that's going to get rid of choice A. It's also going to get rid of choice B, because removing the transition word doesn't make it any better. The problem isn't the word, it's the comma. But if we look at C and D, we are using words that we're allowed to use with a comma to join sentences. You might have heard of something known as fanboys. Fanboys. These are the conjunctions. And conjunctions are small little words that, for whatever reason, in English, we're allowed to use to join two sentences with a comma. So we use some of them all the time, and I'm going to list them all. That's what fanboys is. It's a mnemonic device for remembering. F stands for for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. These words are special. And we're used to it for things like and, but, and or, but we're not used to it for some of these other ones. But these words are allowed to join two sentences with only a comma. And that's exactly what choice C is doing, and that is why that is the correct answer. Now, could we join it with a semicolon? Kind of. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but honestly, this is a case where we've overdone it, right? Remember, that semicolon is supposed to tell me that I've got two things that could be completely separate sentences on either side. And while it's fine for the yellow part to be beforehand, it would be kind of weird to start a sentence with the word and. So we shouldn't really do that with a semicolon. Basically, we want to use commas for all of these words. And then a word like however that's a little bit more advanced, a little bit more hefty, that gets a semicolon. So we've seen that maybe in some of the transition questions, not in this one in particular, but it's a tricky kind of random thing in English. If you're confused by it, the best I can say is yeah, this is just what some people decided a long time ago, and now we all have to live with it. I don't get why it is this way, but this is the way it is. It's just grammar. But the fanboys thing you should try to memorize. That can be very helpful, but I don't think I'd be even thinking about that if I hadn't predicted the question and thought about punctuation, because otherwise this sentence probably sounds fine. I need to see punctuation as a way of testing sentence structure so that I can notice the sentence structure. You can't hear it, because it'll just sound like two sentences. We have to see how those sentences are combined with the punctuation. That is the rule. So you need to think about rules here, predict the question, get your brain on that path.